classroom. I know everybody, we've got, we're going to have probably close to 150 people. So if you can make sure you mute while we're discussing. Actually, we're going to probably have more than 150 people by the amount of people that are going to be in behind the cameras listening as well. So today we've,
要听多久？
so everybody just make sure that when you're logging on
正常是1个半小时。
that,
也可以1点。
okay, no, you're going to have to make sure, Shelley, that you mute people because a lot of people are going to be live. Yeah, we do not need the interruptions. So we don't have a lot of time, everybody, because it's 12 o'clock right now, 12:01 officially, and Mr. Balboni will be joining us shortly as our special guest today, and we're all pretty excited. And I think we've got all the classes on, students on right now. And then we've got all the other parents and that are joining us over the next period, a little time here. So I want to bring up quickly, guys, before we get started, some things that we've discussed in the past, okay, that will give us a little bit of a precursor to Dr. Balboni coming on and speaking to us about lots of other things. So first off, remember one of the rules that we have here in our class, and a lot of you guys have already put in questions. That's great. One of the big things that we're talking about here is trying to give you guys the experience that you need outside of the walls that you're in right now, which is at the home and in the school, to broaden more of your horizons about what is officially out there that may pique your interest that you don't know right now. And as we've discussed in this course before, we have lots of people in private schools and public schools, and they've come to me privately and in class and discussed how scared they are that even though they're smart and they're doing well in school and they're getting great grades, one of the biggest issues right now is they just don't know where they're going. So everybody in this classroom, just, you know, for the new people that have joined us, we're very adult in this classroom. Doesn't matter whether you're in grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11. We talk about serious issues, right from death all the way to drugs that are available, to things in shorting markets. And I'll give you a good example. We even talk about group homes and the death that's going to occur in group homes right now with older people, and how that'll be hard for companies such as old age homes to make money going forward. So we really cover a lot of deep stuff here. We don't candy it at all. We're right in it, and it's all about business. So I want to bring up something to the classroom because a lot of them have been thinking about questions, so they know that this is what they're going to be asking. But back in April of 2019, okay, we ran a lecture, which would be a year ago, I guess, as of today, actually. There you go. About an issue out there, and I think Mr. Balboni, when he joins us, will find it with a smile. We were ahead of the curve on this. We were discussing a deadly fungus outbreak in Chicago, okay? And this was a fungus outbreak with the name Candida auroris, okay? At that point in time, I did not know that Appili was involved with a company called Fujifilm in potentially bringing an antibiotic that would be quite effective against this mold. But we were discussing this in class, okay? And one of the reasons why we were discussing it is that obviously the death rate was quite high. The statistics showed that a lot of people that got this in the hospital, if you got it, you're already probably a little unhealthy, but the death rate was 30 to 60%, which is a lot higher than the COVID-19 virus right now. And make no mistake about this, everybody, this mold or fungus is prevalent now in many hospitals outside, and we're not going to get into the depths of it right now because we've discussed that in the classroom. But the fact is that we've discussed this and everybody knows a little bit about this in the classroom, okay? So one of the things that we cover in this classroom is that we draw in the periodic table, okay? And for everybody in the class, we know we talk about it a lot. And in this case, we're talking about silver. And instead of making the periodic table just a periodic table where you memorize the weights, the atomic number and everything else, and the rest of it just goes away, we actually like to talk about putting science back into the business. So the class is quite familiar with this, and I'm leading to something, as everybody always knows, in my class, which will lead to Appili. So in this case, we're talking about silver and some of the attributes that silver had that make it an antibiotic type material. Okay. I don't know if everybody has heard out there, but right now, some of the agents that you receive at home, like plastic, right here, if you take something that's got plastic, corona or COVID-19 may stay on that surface for up to 3 days. On cardboard, it may stay on that surface for up to 24 hours. There's a bunch of varying degrees. On copper, if you're on the surface of copper, which is Cu, it can stay on that surface for up to 2 hours. So those are good things to know if you're using those things in your business, whether it's a hospital or something else that you've got that actually can help kill certain viruses. So in the case of silver, even though we're not linking it directly to Candida auroris, because it's not officially what that is, you can see some of the businesses that were started. Okay, one of the businesses started, I'll just move up. If I can do this here, we'll come down, is a company with antibacterial sheets and pillowcases. Okay, so what they did is they actually inbred the silver into the sheets and pillowcases to make it a more of an antibacterial type environment. And if you're going into a hospital, and this is all about business, we've talked about this before, hospitals are businesses. If they can attract patients to come to their hospital, they're going to make more money. And one of the ways would be saying, hey, we've got antibacterial sheets. We keep our hospital a lot safer than other people. Yeah. Yeah, can everybody see the screen?
There, and
no, I'm sharing it. So
Yeah, is it just white?
it's just white? Oh boy. Okay, hold on. Here. Can everybody see that screen now?
no. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Sorry guys, I was running modeling without you guys seeing. So I'll back up a bit. You can see in April 19th, we were talking about Candida auroris. This was in our lectures. So for the people that are in second year, they remember this from last year. And we were talking about what was coming down the pipe. And at that point, there was no drugs that were available out there that we knew of that could help this. And that was a concern that we spoke in the class. So we actually brought in one of our silver, okay, which was right up here. And we talked about silver and how it actually acts as an microbial type sheet in the hospitals and the pillows, okay? And that was a good business for somebody to be in. So we're going to run out of time here, so I want to just move on quickly. Because, can anybody, when they're on there, just make sure they mute? Thank you, because we're going to have a lot of people. One of the reasons we're covering this is because we're looking for companies that might be in this business that can actually create or bring out an antibiotic that would be effective against this type of thing, okay? So that leads me to, okay, a company called Appili, okay? And the gentleman that will be speaking today is the CEO of Appili, Mr. Armand Balboni. He's been involved in a lot of different aspects of the bioindustry. He's also very well educated here, which is going to give a lot of people a lot of opportunity. I think we've got 95 people waiting. I guess you're trying to get as many people as possible, right? I know, I see 98 more people trying to join them. Yeah, got it. So what I'd like to do is just go through Appili for a minute, because, and if I say the name wrong, guys, it's just because I got a lot of things going on right now. Appili, if I bring up, just so everybody can see here, I'm going to bring this up first in the inbox, and I'm going to go to the classroom. Okay, we don't have time today to do the entire or to show the whole portfolio, but I just want to show everybody here the portfolio as of last week. Okay, so here's all the students in the one model portfolio. You can see Mr. Moon, actually I go as Mr. Moon and not Mr. Moon, is leading it with 368,000. Everybody started with 100,000. Okay, this was started in October of last year, so this includes the crash. And you can see the valuations of the portfolios that everybody started with $100,000. They've actually, they didn't start till November. So just this involves after the crash. The students have done extremely well at picking stocks. In fact, if you were to post this on Wall Street Journal, probably every one of them would become portfolio managers or be welcome to become a portfolio manager after what's gone on here. So they've done extremely well. As of coming into the third year of this course, nobody has still beaten me yet at picking stocks, but I think things are getting closer now and people are starting to catch on to my tricks. So I just want to show that for the students. I'm very proud of them in this class, and they've done very well. A lot of these students, by the way, hold Appili and medicine in their portfolios, which have done very well. They listen to me in the class. And at the same time, a lot of these students have gone out there and picked other companies that have done quite well as well in the biotech and other areas. So they're very watchful of what's going on out there. So I'll get rid of this right now and come back to what we're talking about, our topic, Appili. What we want to look at is that Appili recently added a new drug to their portfolio, okay? And that was a novel antifungal drug called ATI 2307. Well, guess what, guys? That drug is involved with Candida, okay? And you can see all the different things, the New York Times, mysterious infection. So while COVID is going on here, okay, we also have some other issues going on in the hospitals with mold, and that is Candida, and it is a fungal infection that is resistant to antibiotics. So right now, Appili is in the midst of trials, okay? And you can see the trials that are going on, okay? How their drug is doing well, where most of the other antibiotics out there are failing after a certain period of time. And you can see the types of market caps. So why this is important for the classroom or for the people that are on here, the parents, is that all the students in this classroom understand market capitalization. So they know that Appili has about fully diluted 57 million shares, I believe now is the new number. And maybe Mr. Balboni can correct me on that one. That's fully diluted. And they look at the stock price of $1.50 and they know that this company is worth around $80 million in market cap. When you look at the market opportunities of just this one drug of 350 million and potentially a lot more, you get an idea that this company could be extremely undervalued if the research and the trials work out well. They also have a lot of other drugs in the pipeline, including Tulamira vaccine. And I always butcher these names, so I apologize. I'm sure Mr. Balboni is shaking his head right now as I say these, but you can see there's another drug, Tulamira, that is also in trials right now. And they were using apes for this trial. And you can see it's 1,000 times more infectious than anthrax. And the death rate is quite quick with no vaccine. And with the trials, it seems to be doing quite well. So there's a little intro to Appili. The students know it very, very well. You can see again, here's some of the emergency or pre-approval emergency deals. You can see that a lot of militaries around the world would be interested in this drug, okay? And therefore there's a lot of opportunity for revenue, and revenue brings valuation to a company such as Appili. So I got one more minute to talk. The students here, as you know, I think somebody needs to mute because they can hear them. Thank you. So I'm going to be a little forceful today on the muting. Everybody's got to be on the same page here so that we can allow everybody to get their answers in and questions in and allow Mr. Balboni to speak. So it's really important that the kids all know different valuations. They know how to do a top-down and bottom-up approach. The top-down approach right now is one of the things we don't like to talk about, which is COVID-19, okay? And they do a top-down approach looking at everything that's involved with COVID-19. And then they do a bottom-up approach of looking at all the different companies that are involved and try to decipher who's got the number 5 things that everybody in this classroom knows, okay? And I'll name them because I don't want all the people to come on right now. But the 5 things are management, liabilities, legals, competition, okay? And what's the other one? So we got liabilities, management, legals, competition, and
Market capitalization.
yeah, capital, right? Capital. So not market capitalization, but capital. Okay, so without those, most companies don't survive. It's inbred in most of the second year students' heads and first year now. So I can tell you that Appili has got all of that. They've got incredible management, okay, with Mr. Balboni all the way down. They've got money in the bank because they've raised $12 million on a financing. They're in a liability legal area right now, okay, which is there's a lot of liability out there, guys. Cruise ships now are getting sued by all the people because people were sick on the ships. If we can get drugs out that help, then we'll be a lot further ahead. Competition, there's always competition, but Mr. Balboni has been able to secure in his pipeline of drugs a lot of drugs that are from areas because of his connections, and he's done extremely well. So what I'm going to do now is there are a couple people on this line that have helped and made focused learning, and I made it what it is over the last 3 years. And one of them is running the books today, Shelley Zhang, okay? And she is doing a great job. And then we've also had Mr. Peter Tovey join the line, and he was on last week giving his lecture on corporate structure from shareholders agreements all the way down to bylaws and directors meetings, okay? And this, remember, this is for kids that are from grade 7 all the way to grade 11. So they're way advanced of what's going on before they even get to university, which is kind of exciting for me and everybody else that joined. And we also have Beverly Pang, who has joined the call. And she was also one of the people that was intimately involved with setting up the whole business scenario going forward and where we are today. So without any further delay, I believe that Mr. Dr. Armand Balboni is online, and you are more than welcome to take it away. The way we've structured it today is that he's going to talk about Appili first, and not so much introduce all his educational and past things, because he's going to talk about Appili first, and then he's going to get into his education and everything that he did moving forward. So therefore, that's fresh to everybody's mind. And then all the students can now ask questions that are intimately concerning them about where they're going to go in their future. And again, can someone just mute, please? Because,
Whose mom
we
is
need to,
that?
yep. Okay, good. Dr. Balboni, are you there?
I am. Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Hopefully, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
So, James, thanks for making this available to me. I'm always happy to talk to folks, because I think you'll be a little bit surprised at at the message that you hear from me. It wasn't well, it was a very long time ago that I was in your position, but I was probably just as confused as you all are about how and how you're going to move forward and what you want to do. I had no idea, just to kind of lay it out, and then I'll talk about the company a little bit. But I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I don't think you need to know at your age what you want to do. What's more important is that you have a desire to do well, and you use your intelligence and your opportunities, and know that there are lots of things out there that you can't possibly know beforehand. I had no idea that I would end up where I am now, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But let's talk about the company just for a few minutes. So James is correct. He is both one of the smartest guys that I know, and then he butchers the names probably as well as anybody out there. And so that's going to be good. So Appili Therapeutics is a company that was formed to fight infections. And that's really all we did. We started the company in 2015 with an idea, and the idea was really around one of our pipeline drugs. And maybe James, you can go to the pipeline for a second, because I'll just speak from that slide, that one. And so you see way down at the bottom, ATI 1501, and so that was a drug, an idea that I had after seeing some patients. And I realized that they were having trouble swallowing drugs. And so it didn't seem like a brilliant idea at the time, but what I could do is take those drugs, and sometimes what they do is they crush them up and they put them in applesauce. And what happened is that the patients would come to me the next day. This drug tastes terrible. And if any of you have grandparents or in long-term care or even at home that you're taking care of, this is a very common drug that they get. And what I noticed is that when it was crushed up and put into applesauce, the patients would come to me the next day and say, Dr. Balboni, the nurse is trying to kill me. It would taste that bad. And so I said, well, we can do something better. They hated applesauce. This is all it really did. And so I said, let's take this drug and maybe make it a liquid so that we can drink it. And we all know that we hate to swallow pills. And so drinking it is much easier. And so we simply made a drinkable version of this drug that masked or hid the bad taste. And it was really that simple. And that's how the company started. We started with that one idea. And so this company is all about solving problems in infectious diseases. We know from the news and from what you guys are doing in this class and other places that these diseases are very common. And we talked about Candida auris and we talk about COVID-19. Well, these are all infectious diseases. And so we had the idea, given my background, that we were going to spend some time building a company that tackled just this one problem. And we were going to be the absolute best that we could at finding solutions for people. And that's really where Appili came from. And so we spend our day looking at ideas. We're an idea company. We don't, I'm a scientist and a physician, but I don't build all of these things myself. So what I do is probably what you do when you investigate companies. You go out and you look for solutions. We know what the problems are, but now you need to go out and look for them. And you take the science training that you have and apply it to business. And that's really what this company is. And so we go out and we find products for problems. And we did that with ATI 2307. We did it with ATI 1701. And we did it with 1503. All those are really good science solutions for problems that we uncovered. And so the novel antifungal, we entered into a business relationship with a company called Fujifilm Toyama. Fujifilm Toyama is a $25 billion a year Japanese pharmaceutical company. You know, they are looking to do business just like everybody else, and it's about building a personal relationship. And so I reached out to them and we built a relationship and we in-licensed, we acquired this drug because we knew that there was a problem, and we brought a solution to them that they didn't have previously, that we were going to go after these fungal infections that were otherwise not being treated. They had a different idea. So we brought a novel solution to them and they chose to go into business with us. With 1701, I used my background in the military to know that there was a problem, and the problem was this thing called tularemia, which is 1,000 times more potent than anthrax, which is what James let you know. And so I said, well, the vaccine isn't really available anywhere else. Maybe we can find a solution to this. And so we started looking for other folks who were making these vaccines. This vaccine, by the way, was developed by scientists at NRC right in Canada. And so we looked there. Close to home sometimes is where these solutions are. And we built this program from the ground up, and we went and we got funding for it. And now we're doing those studies to show that it works. We did the same thing with 1503, which is an antibiotic. And so that was a program that we said, well, there seems to be lots of resistance to infections out there. And so let's go find a novel gram-negative antibiotic. And so we went to AstraZeneca, another large pharmaceutical company, and said, what do you have? And we looked for solutions. And so what I would say is that while we are a specialized anti-infective company, given my background and my curiosity around science, we built a company that's all about trying to figure out problems, to find solutions. And so we take that natural curiosity, and of course we have a science background, and so we apply that science to problems. And I would argue that many, many companies are founded this way. This is what you do. You find something you're passionate about, you identify an unmet need in the market, and then you go and try and find solutions. And as James pointed out, we started this company again from one product. And these are only all the products that we're listing here, but we're continuing every single day to go look for good science and new products. And so I think what you should be looking for is that the company going forward is absolutely going to identify new solutions for other problems that we have or haven't even thought of yet, but they will be in infectious diseases because that's what we understand. And so I'm going to pause there for a second because it really is quite simple from that perspective, but it really comes down to find something you're passionate about, identify a need in the marketplace, and then go ahead and find solutions and bring together other people who have that natural curiosity. My guess is that all of you, as you sit and you look at your portfolios, you see companies that you're passionate about, and you probably talk to your peers about this. And these are the people that you will naturally gravitate towards and could form a company yourselves. This is it. It's based on your curiosity and the hard work to kind of uncover the long-term value that we talk about in our pipeline. And so it's not easy, but it's also quite simple. You leverage the information you have and bring together other folks. It's a team effort to make this happen. And so that's what we've done with Appili Therapeutics. So James, I'll stop there for a second if you want. I don't know if you have questions or other folks want to talk about the company, but we can certainly give more detail or whatever.
If people can fire questions now if they want. A lot of people are probably in a little bit of awe. So, but
yeah. Or I can talk about my background. I mean, I think maybe that could be helpful as well, because I think some of you are searching. I know where you are in school, and many of you are about the same age as my daughter, and she's trying to figure out, what am I going to do now? And she's a junior in high school, and trying to figure out what she's going to do. And what I always tell her is, I think that I'm happy as long as you are doing your best, and you don't have to have it all figured out right now. So, it's okay to not know what you want to do with the rest of your life. I might be a little afraid, by the way, if you know exactly what you want to do with the rest of your life in 7th grade. That certainly was not my experience. So for me, I was always very smart, and the teachers told me that, but I was a little bit lazy. And that was the hardest thing for me to get past, is that I didn't do as well in school as I probably could have, until I figured it out later that it takes, you have to be smart and hardworking. And I think that's really the key for me. I didn't really even know, and I hate to admit this, my daughter can't believe it, given all the degrees I have now, I didn't know until the last day of high school that I was even going to graduate. Because I had taken a very lazy approach to a math class, and I decided I didn't need it. Well, I didn't realize that I actually needed it to graduate, and so I had to get an A on my final exam to graduate. I did it, but it scared me to death, because then I realized, oh, it doesn't matter how smart you are if you can't apply that in some way that's useful. And I didn't even really know in college what I wanted to do. I took lots of different courses, and I was a liberal arts major. Until I realized I took a biology class and I loved it, and I realized I wanted to go to medical school. And so I did the work necessary to do that. And then all these other things just kind of grew from that. Once I realized that, school is once I found my passion, the thing that I loved to do every day, I started doing that. And then I realized you could take that and apply it to business. I didn't realize that scientists could be in business until I met some of my other partners, Brian and Jolyon, and people out there that we started a firm with. I didn't realize that could happen. And so Brian was, and you can see it's highlighted there, at Bloom Burton & Co. I'm one of the founders of Bloom Burton & Co. with Brian and another partner of ours. And I never realized that scientists could be in business. And so that's another path I went down. But for me, all of these things come down to, if you're willing to do the hard work and work as a team, you will have success. And that's really where it all started from. But it's a journey. And so I'm excited because you guys have it wide open to you right now. You can do whatever you want to do. And I'm sure all of you are very smart, but it's about being smart and working hard and asking people like James and other folks out there, what their path was. What college do I go to? How do I go to college? I didn't have anybody tell me how to fill out the applications. I had to kind of figure it out, but you have to be willing to ask questions. And so I'll stop there. Now that I've given you a task, I'm hoping that you will all ask questions now.
Do you want to ask some of the questions, Shelley, that have been asked, or maybe Shelley can start off with one question, and the students have done. And then what we can do then is students can actually start asking some questions live. Go ahead, guys. And Shelley, yeah?
Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. Armand Balboni. It's quite an honor to have you talking with our kids. I know they are expecting you to give them a lot answer to a lot of questions. How about starting with Didn't get that.
Hmm?
Echo. So the first question here is, what was your first job?
My first job. Excellent. So I had two first jobs, if you will. I did them both at the same time. I thought that I would start my own business, and I walked around. I lived in an area with lots of apartments. We didn't have a house. We grew up in a very small apartment, a big family. I was first generation in the United States, by the way, and so we had a large family all living together. And for me, my first job was walking around trying to get people to pay me to shovel out their sidewalk. And so I walk around after a snowstorm with my shovel and go knock on doors and try and get people to let me do that. And then my other real first job was in a pizza restaurant. And so I was a dishwasher. And so I washed dishes, and then eventually they let me make pizzas. And that's the job I had until I actually graduated from high school. So I kept that one for many, many years. And I still, if I have to say, if I could go back and do a job again, you may see me working in a pizza restaurant again at some point. That might be, that really is something I really enjoy doing. So I never left. I do hate snow shoveling though. So I don't think I'll do that one again.
And pizza places might be the only places to stay in business right now during COVID.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a cash only business. I love it. I mean, I think, you go to any corner pizza place in Toronto and you probably find a place that's probably pulling in a few $1 million a year. It's not a bad business to be in.
It's funny how fast businesses react to some of the ads in the States right now. Some of the ads in the States right now are showing that the pizzas now are non-touch pizzas. They go right into the box. The box slides out of the heater and you can come and pick up the box without getting Corona attachment on the cardboard box, and you can come home and eat it. So
yeah,
it shows how quickly business can react to things as well.
Yeah, I would argue the pizza oven is 450 degrees, so I'm sure the virus has no chance anyway. But great marketing.
Sally, go ahead.
How about questions?
Yeah. Any questions, verbal? Anybody want to say something? A lot of smart people on here now, so go ahead.
Yeah, I have got some questions here. How did you go from drug development within other organizations to starting your own firm?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how did I go from drug development someplace else to starting this company? I guess I didn't know how hard it was to start this company. So I had done drug development in a couple of places, not by design. I kind of got interested in it just from the jobs that I had, and mostly in the military. So I think in the science, I would have been happy as a bench scientist working on that. And when somebody said, "Well, we need a scientist to go to the Food and Drug Administration to act as a reviewer for a subject matter expert at the Food and Drug Administration during the Ebola outbreak." And so it really was that introduction of applied science to drug development that got me going. And from there I said, maybe after that I could see all these companies coming through. And I said, well, you know what, I think we could do better. And so that's really where it came from. A little bit of exposure, a little bit of experience, and then realizing that I thought we could do better than other companies out there. One thing I would say is that something I never took advantage of early on, but I wish I had, is this idea of internships. And so, internships, especially as you get into college and spend your summers looking for things, are a great way to test out business areas where you may find some mentors and some interest. And so I think nobody in business is ever shy about giving advice. And so if there's something that you think you're interested in, reach out, send an email, send a message. Probably not a text, but reach out in some way, and don't underestimate the benefit of a phone call. Although my daughter hates talking on the phone, but it is a powerful way to kind of figure out what you may be interested in as you move forward.
Hi, James. I have a question for Mr. Balboni.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah, Ms. Balboni, your resume, I mean, your experience is very impressive. And I will have a question. When is the moment that you decided to work for yourself? Because you definitely have a very, good job working for the U.S. Army and earlier working for the research labs. But what's the moment? When is the moment? And what motivates you? Because it takes a lot of courage to do this. And for many young people, they're very ambitious now. They're smart and they're ambitious. They try to do something on their own. They think having their own business is very easy, but it may not be like that. So can you share your experience regarding that moment?
I'm glad James has pulled up the anatomy of a successful entrepreneur, because I think if we walked through that, we would probably find that I meet many of those elements there. The difference for me was I was the first member of my family to go to college. I think that's the first thing, and so I was really we were not a wealthy family at all. We were quite poor, so I had to work very, very hard to get into college, and so a lot of it was just on me. And I think part of it too is when you don't have much to lose, you're sometimes willing to take a lot of risk on, and so I've always been willing to kind of reach for something beyond what I'm doing. I'm very intellectually curious about those kinds of things, and so I think that is certainly one of the things that motivates me is this desire to do well. And I don't mean that in a monetary sense, so that's a nice piece of it, but I see problems and I really want to solve them, and so I think that's certainly part of it. The courage, I don't know that I don't feel particularly courageous. I guess maybe I'm less sensitive to the downside risk associated with being an entrepreneur. I don't view it as risky. I view the benefits to outweigh the risks. The intellectual curiosity, the ability to make my own path, all of those things seem to be more kind of a bigger reward than the potential downside. I don't also really see failure as an option. I would just go on to do something else. And so it's a great question. Some people are not built that way, and that's okay too, because I think we need people that are also willing and able to stay focused on what it is right in front of them and work within the company. We have people in our company that are like that now. They are scientists who love coming to work and doing the bench work, and I think that's fantastic. And they get very nervous when they see me coming because I always have a great new idea, and it can be very risky. But if you're willing to take on that risk and try, I figure the worst that can happen is you just have to try tomorrow. So I hope that answers your question. It's not a great question, a great answer. It's a little hand wavy, but I think some people are just built to do it and some are not. And so I guess I'm just not afraid of risk.
What I'll add to that for Mr. Balboni is that that's where the capital markets, everybody comes in and makes sure that although Mr. Balboni is doing a great job, we have to make sure he's accountable because there's a lot of shareholder involvement there with money. And that's why one of the top 5 things we have in our list is management, because there are some people that are more successful at understanding risk and moving forward and being more successful than a lot of people that are not. And therefore, that's where we allocate our money. And that's where you have done that throughout the course. The 2 years course is just understanding and doing your bottom-up approach on those companies. So
yeah, I guess James, I think what I would probably add to that as well is what I also do really well, I have to say, is I build teams very well. And so recognizing that if I'm a risk taker, I'm very aware of a board and my CFO, Kimberly Stevens, incredibly experienced and much more risk averse than I am. And so we have very spirited conversations about how to assess risk, and how to identify it, and the board as well. That's an experienced board, and they are always looking to help balance my desire to move forward with risk as well. And so it really is understanding that I don't have all the answers, and I've got to build a team. To James' point about my shareholders, I take calls all the time. James and I speak constantly about stuff, and so he's always willing to give me his opinion about risk in our portfolio. And so I think it's a balance. It's a balance.
Okay, guys. Any other? That was a great question. Thanks, Jessica. You can see how we could be on here for hours because there's so many ideas and thoughts that come from each question. Go ahead.
What is your thought on MDNA?
Oh, somebody else got a question?
What is your thought on MDNA?
DNA.
What are your thoughts on it?
On MDNA, I guess that's a good. Just so you know, Mr. Balboni, we've discussed MDNA in our classroom as well since the very beginnings, way back when, and a lot of the kids, a lot of students were involved at the 80-cent and $1.30 round way back years ago. That's a good question, guys.
It is a good question. And so, so what do you want to know about what I think? Let me ask you a question, so I can give you a.
As a competitor.
So I think that competition is a great thing, right? It's a great a motivator to make a healthy investment ecosystem. And so I'm not afraid of any other company or competition or ways to move forward. And I think that it only makes all of us stronger by helping to focus our approach to what we do. And I'm also very confident in what we do. We do very well. We identify problems in a unique way, and we apply novel solutions. And so everyone has their way of kind of carving up the universe or ecosystem in ways that most easily fit their programs or products.
Yeah, and go ahead, Christian, you got something? I think also we have to remember that the bio sciences industry is a broad-based industry, and Appili is more in the infectious diseases area, and I could be wrong on this, and MDNA is more in the cancer development area as well. So they're different companies, and therefore they're not really as competitive in competition against each other. They're in different aspects. And remember, we have a big theory in this classroom that you like to follow the money. So obviously our students know that if you're going to be going into engineering and designing cars that are using gasoline right now, combustible engines, that's probably not the area you want to be going into. It's more into the area of battery development and other areas. So so the same goes with the bio industry. You want to be looking at where the money's going, and a lot of the money is going into new cancer type treatments. It's also going into what we know right now, which is things like Candida auroris and COVID-19. So those are interesting areas that could disappear later on, and you've made that move, but at least that's where the money's going. So.
Yeah, and so I have to say, just in full disclosure, MDNA, Bloom Burton has been very involved in MDNA as well, and so we raise money for a lot of companies, and so I also would argue that as they do well, we do well, and so a very healthy ecosystem is important. And don't underestimate, the success of companies as they go out and execute on their strategy to create a healthy ecosystem, which makes it easier for us. As Appili going forward. And so it may not be direct competition from a product standpoint, but success, especially in Canadian biotech, which is a small community, is very, very good. A rising tide lifts all boats. And so I think as we have a healthy ecosystem, it's always good for each of the companies. And as investors, all of you with your portfolios, as you do well with your portfolio, that makes you want to also invest in other companies and stories as well in that sector. So a sector approach is also an important one.
And remember, everybody, that when you're making these investments in these companies are companies that are growing in Canada and in US, and they do employ people, and the more capital, the more success they have, obviously the more jobs are available and the more new ideas come around. So it's important to actually be funding a lot of these companies, such as Bloom Burton does out there, to help a lot of these types of biotech companies going forward.
Yeah, and I have a question here from
Yeah.
yesterday following this lead. It's, okay, where's it? So, Mr. Balboni, can you predict the future of the healthcare business in North America and in the world? Will it be a profitable field of business?
I wish I had that crystal ball. So I'll give you. I would be spending a lot more time making pizza and not worrying about an income. So let me give you a little bit of a feel for, maybe I'll focus that question just a little bit. And so what I would say is that in the anti-infective space, it's been very beaten down over the last year or so, and I think that you know, and our company in particular was very undervalued, and so I think you know, James and others have taken a very contrarian or an opposite kind of view of the anti-infective space, and to invest in companies like this. So great story. You know, companies like Achaogen and Melinta and some other companies that are out there, as they go bankrupt, you know, that's really what the investors are saying. We're not interested in that space. But you know, these problems like COVID-19 and infections have not gone away, and so I think that there was an opportunity. And there's Achaogen and Airdyne and Melinta that all went out of business with approved products, and so that to me represent, and that was probably a 2019 story, James. I'm not quite sure what the date is. Yeah, end of.
The reason
you know,
why I can bring these articles up so quickly is because we've actually studied this in the
Oh,
classroom.
fantastic.
It's all in our stuff. So when you start talking about something, I can easily go and grab it.
Yeah.
So that was December 2019.
Yeah, so in 2019, I would argue that was the real low point in anti-infectives, and so I think that was a great opportunity to get in and buy some of these things that were distressed and undervalued. The question is, you know, you still have to do your homework and see which one is going to work. But so am I bullish on the? Am I, you know, positive on the biotech space? Absolutely. It's really all I know. So that's one reason I can be a little bit supportive of that. If you ask me about mining or car, I don't know anything about that stuff. I have to get James to do that for me. So I don't know that stuff. But what I do know is that healthcare, there's a growing aging population, and these problems don't go away. And so I think that, you know, if you do your homework and look for emerging areas, biotech is certainly one of them with the growing and aging population.
I had to put up a mine there, just silver mine.
See, I didn't even know what that was. So that's
it's an open pit. It's an open pit silver mine.
Okay.
As part of our discussion on biotech and other careers that are out there, because one of the things we talk about is that a lot of the students, and you're so correct, they just have no idea of what's out there. So what we try to do in this course is just, we're not saying, hey, this is what you should do. This is just what's out there. And when you look at a picture of an open pit mine, you see that it's a lot of movement around to get to the bottom, but a lot of that has changed now. A lot of the trucks are automated with GPS and AI is involved. So there's so many other jobs that are out there that the students just are not aware of yet, that might pique their interest and say, oh my goodness, I never thought about that. So
yeah. Well, I read a great article last night about a Canadian company that converts vehicles to electric underground vehicles so that they can use them in some of these mines. What a great job if that's somebody who's interested in engineering and wants to do, you know, kind of conversion stuff. And these are companies, small companies that exist, and some large, to convert these vehicles to electric vehicles. And what a great idea. I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead. I'll mute for a second so we don't.
What are your thoughts on entrepreneurship versus corporate life?
Yeah, so I've done both. That's a real softball question for me. It's a great question. So I worked. I've worked both in corporations and in and as an entrepreneur, and they bring different benefits and downsides. And so I think one of the things that frustrates me about the corporate world is how slowly things can move sometimes. And there are the reason that we started Bloom Burton was because we worked at a bank called Dundee Securities, which is a much larger bank, and we were a small piece of a larger bank. And we had this idea that we wanted to invest directly in companies and start to found them. And they said, well, there's a process for that. You've got to go to the board and you've got to get approvals, and it's going to take you a year or two. And we didn't want to wait that long. And so, that was one of many reasons that we said, well, we think we can do this better, faster, quicker as our own company. The difference, of course, is that we thought we could do it better, faster, quicker as our own company, but we left and we had no clients. And so, it's all that risk is on you at that point. And so we realized that there's some safety in corporations as well. And I don't think one is mutually exclusive of the other. I think sometimes you can spend time in corporations. You can learn lots and lots of things. You get responsibility. You get experiences that you don't get in small companies, and you can take that and oftentimes translate that to something that you are specifically passionate about. And so I think there are different ways to do it, and you'll just have to try them out and see which one works for you.
Good question, Dennis. I like it.
Okay, Mr. Balboni, there's another question related to a company. Do you have any rivals to your company? I think just mentioned MDNA, right? Do you have any rivals in your field? And if so, what are their names?
So I just spent some time on a panel a few days ago talking about 2307. And James, if you want, you can pull up this slide deck. I think we highlight some of our competition for 2307, and I think we list a couple of companies. If you one more right there. So companies. Yeah, just back up one slide. I think I'm seeing priority review voucher. That one, yeah. So valuations and funds raised. So I think if you look at Amplex, I was on a panel with the CEO of Amplex, phase 2 antifungal drug Synexus, and Sidara. All of those are direct competitors with us for the antifungal drug. There's also a much larger pharmaceutical company called Basilia, which made Cresemba. And of course, a huge company, Pfizer, who wouldn't even know we existed. We're kind of like the change in the seat cushions to them. We're based on market cap. Yeah, so direct competitors, so I'd say Amplex.
Hi.
Antifungal based and you like it, those are companies. Sidara and Synexus, I think, are both public companies.
Yeah.
Alex,
Thank you.
Yeah. Alex, yeah, go ahead, Alex.
So thank you. My question is, how did military college help you?
Yeah, so I've spent over 17 years in the military, and I'm on the faculty at West Point, which is the United States Military Academy at West Point. And so I have a long history with the military. The reason I joined the military in the first place, before becoming an officer and a physician and scientist, was because I had no idea what I wanted to do after high school. And so for me, it was a way to kind of get paid, which was good. And in the United States anyway, they give you the GI Bill, a scholarship effectively to pay for college, and that's how I paid for college. So, but they're kind of sneaky, because what they do is they actually teach you things like discipline. At 19 years old, I wasn't very disciplined, and so they showed me that I had to show up on time. I had to look the part. I had to make sure that my uniform was squared away and my hair was cut. And by the way, they gave me a lot of responsibility. And if I screwed something up, even as a 18, 19-year-old, I could get other people hurt or killed during training, especially. And so it taught me all of those things, all of those life lessons that sometimes you don't, that at least I didn't have, and also helped me to pay for college. And they did it in a way that worked for me. So it really did set me down this path of learning to be, that being smart wasn't enough, that it was about being smart and disciplined and organized. And so I think all of those things were really important.
Sure, as you can see, so I'll just put, just give me 1 second. What is this? Not come back up. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was on live. As you can see, when we're talking and Mr. Balboni is talking, we're also very prepared ourselves by bringing up slides. Anything that people are talking about, we're very structured when we run this course. So it's great that when he's speaking, you guys have got questions like that. You can see being organized and structured is important. And I think that's what the military brings you with that responsibility as well. So good question, Alex. What have we got?
Yeah, I do have more questions from yesterday on the company. Now, what obstacles have you faced while running your company, and how do you overcome them?
Wow, that's a great question. So I think that the obvious first question, the first obstacle is always around capital, right? And whether or not you have enough money to do what you need to do. It's very expensive, very, very expensive to run a biotech company. And science is expensive. And so we had to make sure that we were, that not only were we able to find the money, but I would say that, one of the things about Appili is that we've also been very capital efficient. So shrewd money management, you have right up there. For every dollar we've raised in equity, we've raised $1 in non-dilutive financing as well, approximately. So about from the 35 million or so that we've raised, 19 million has been, and that's probably in our balance sheet, right there. So, we've raised 44.7 million total, 25 million in private equity, and 19 million in government assistance. Well, that government assistance is non-dilutive, which means that that's $19 million we didn't have to dilute our shareholders by our common shares outstanding, 46 million. We didn't have to add to that for that $19 million as our valuation was frankly quite low for a while. And so, all of those things become very important. So cash, capital is really important. And being prudent about that, so that we have 10.52 million that we just raised in February. That's going to get us to the middle of 2021, which means that our runway is actually quite robust. What does that mean? That means that we're able to do the things that we said we were going to do with the cash that we have on hand. Again, being disciplined in our ability to both raise and then deploy the cash that we have. So that's the first obstacle. I have to say that probably the single greatest obstacle, and one that the military, all these years in the military, have prepared me for is team building and how to find the right people. So capital is important, but human resources are probably more important. If you don't have the right team, if you don't have the right people, you're just doomed. So I would argue, and maybe James has a thought about this as well, like a good team can take a so-so idea and actually go pretty far with it. A bad team can take the best idea and ruin it really quickly. And so I don't know if you have some experience with that.
Well, what I'll add to that, because the class knows that is one of our 5 things that if I was allowed to diet on their hands, they know that one of them is management, the top one. And you've seen this in action. We've studied companies such as Boeing, who have pushed through planes like the Air Max too quickly, and therefore obviously people have died and people have been harmed. And not only have people been harmed, but shareholders have lost a lot of money as well. And Boeing is in a bit of a trouble. So we really take a close look at who the people are that are involved in management. And certainly the second year students also know how important the board is to make sure that the management stays in shape and does what they're supposed to do. So that's structure as well within the corporate environment, no different than the structure that you've been used to going through West Point and things like that, which is why we choose people like Armand for business partners and management going forward, because we know that they have that type of structure. So key to our success.
Yeah, great question. So, and then the final obstacle is probably the one that sometimes people put first, but I would argue should be the follow-up, and that's the science. And so, if we have money and we have the right people, then we need to also find the right products. And so that's always a challenge, but I think everybody focuses on that one. They figure if you just find the smartest people, you'll find the right stuff, but you've got to have all 3 of those things, at least for our model, to make it work. So that was the last obstacle. Sometimes you just don't find great stuff out there. It may not be available, or you know, you can't make it work. And so you've got to be willing to go and find that next great thing.
And what I'll say too is what's interesting, people were asking about competition. And one of the reasons we brought up this article way back when was because you can see it's not an easy environment to be in. And therefore, you know, even though this sounds terrible, there's been some pretty big bankruptcies out there, which has allowed other companies that have been structured and managed properly to fill that void and really take advantage of it. So, and we're going to see a lot more of that going forward in lots of other areas now. People are seeing retail going bankrupt, JC Crew and Newman Marcus, and so there's always shifts. And one of the great things here is if you've got a good management team that has the capability to raise capital, and they have the capability to raise capital because they've been good managers of it in the past, and therefore there's a trust there between the capital markets and the company, they're going to be able to get the job done and be able to bring drugs to the actual field that we need to be able to save us when we actually are in trouble, such as Candida auris and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Hope
Yeah,
I said that okay. But
yeah, you did. It's good.
Yeah, and I have two more questions related to your company before I move on to the CEO part. I've got a lot of questions on the CEO part, but let's get the
we only have another
2 questions.
to go, so.
It's obvious. One question is from the parent, who I think happens to be your shareholder, and the other question is from a student. So question for number 1, what is price per share projection of Appili this year? Are there any big moves?
Well, since I don't want to go to jail,
yeah, he's not allowed to answer that. You know,
what I can do is say that there is independent research on the company, and so I would point you towards the independent research from Maxim, and they have a target price of $250 US for Appili.
And I'll bring that up. I want to add something because, funny enough, we cover that in every class. We've studied Martha Stewart, insider trading, all kinds of fun stuff. So that's a great question. The students actually know it very well. Ms. Shelley is asking for that. I will bring up Maxim's report there that everybody can see with the target of, I believe that's the latest one, March the 10th. There might be a new one, but is that the latest one, March the 10th?
It should be, yep. And so that's the 12-month target price of $2 US. So that's, I don't know what that is Canadian.
Yeah, that might be, I think that's US. Okay, everybody can stop writing on the screen. Okay, so yeah, and that would be a little outdated because there's a few more shares outstanding now, I believe, but maybe I'll get that one. And I also have another analyst report here, which is Zach's, which has got a little bit higher target of $4 Canadian. So just for people to see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the next question. Okay, I'll just read the original words. As a CEO of a small but growing company, how do you plan to grow your company or even make it to the Dow Jones?
Yeah, great question. So
NASDAQ.
Yeah, great question. That NASDAQ. So and this is public. We've guided towards this, and so this is public information. My vision of the company is to grow either organically, meaning we'll continue to acquire new products in the anti-infective space. We're not going to be an oncology company, so MD&A won't be a direct competitor. But we will find new products in the anti-infective space, or since we saw those companies before, but James pulled up about going bankrupt, does offer opportunities for other folks. And so I think, Achaogens and Melintas and those companies have products. And when they go bankrupt, someone has to pick up those products. And so oftentimes these companies also have NASDAQ listings. And so, there are many companies out there with anti-infective products, NASDAQ listing, that for a whole bunch of reasons may not be doing very well. They need a new pipeline, or they need cash or something else. And so I think we could actually acquire another company. So mergers and acquisitions, M&A activity could allow us to also list on the NASDAQ. And so we've guided that 2021 late 2021 is our target for becoming NASDAQ listed, and I think we're on glide path for that right now.
And I'll step in and add something to that from the capital market side. One of the things that a lot of very big funds out there have is that they have compliance committees and a lot of other factors that they have to go through besides just saying that Mr. Balboni is a great scientist and manager and that they've got this. So they have to look at things differently, and that's where we approach the bottom-up approach as well and state that there has to be liquidity. So if a stock only trades 100 or 200,000 shares a day and a fund company comes in and puts $5 million into it, they're not going to be able to get their assets out in a very liquid manner if there happens to be something that goes wrong with either the company or just the economy, such as what's been going on with COVID-19. So being on a bigger exchange like the NASDAQ allows a lot more liquidity to occur, and that is some of the priorities or protocols that the fund companies look for to make bigger investments into smaller companies such as Appili.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hope that he gets the NASDAQ at some point, because obviously that'll draw a lot of other capital in, and we believe that that is potential.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ethan.
So, like, is there like a story of Appili, like how it became Appili?
Yeah, great question. So there is, and so again, in 2015, I was sitting around with my. Yeah, so in 2015, I was sitting around with my partners at Bloom Burton, and I said, "Hey, Brian, I noticed that my patients are having a problem. I think I have a solution. What do you think?" And so we talked about it, and we said, that's maybe we form a company around that. And so we at Bloom Burton, we formed many companies. We've had 5 spin-out companies, and this is one of them. And so we as owners of that company devoted some capital to it a little bit, hired a team, and said, we're going to leverage what we know, which is we know how to go out and search for things. And so that's going to be our company. It's going to be a little bit different than others, but we believe that we can do this. And so that's how it really started. It was just an idea sitting around over lunch, and away we went. So that's how it's worked. And we've continued to stick to the same model. I think that's also really important. It's really important to know what you do well. And so to make sure that you continue to go with your strengths. If you wanted to lock me away in a lab, it could be 1,000 years before I actually came up with a good anti-infective drug. There's lots of smart people out there working on them. And so our story is unmet need, identify that unmet need, and then go and find solutions for it. And so that's really how the company began.
One of the questions that came in on my chat is, which leads in nicely with what you just talked about. Are you looking to develop any drugs in-house, which take a lot of time, or are you always looking for other ones that are out there that you might be able to move faster on?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we do have one program, the 1503 program, which is the gram-negative antibiotic program that we acquired from AstraZeneca, and I'll give James a few seconds to pull it up.
I'm trying to bring it up, and I just lost my page for some reason. I don't know why. What happened here?
That's okay. I'll talk as you look. And so 1503 is a gram-negative antibiotic program, and we acquired the base molecule from there it is right there, the novel gram-negative antibiotic. We acquired the base molecule from AstraZeneca, but we have a lot of chemists in-house, and so we have chemists on our team, and we have a little lab, and they do all of the work to develop what are called analogs, or think of like a structure and then things that are related to that structure as you go forward. That's what they do as chemists. They take that initial structure and say, hey, if we add a side group here and we make it more reactive here, maybe it will bind to bacteria better. And so that's what they've done. And so that's the only program that we have inside the company that we're talking about publicly. We do have a couple of other ones where the chemists are doing some work, but for now, it's probably 1/3, 2/3. If I had to give you a percentage, 1/3 that we work on inside the company, but 2/3 we're looking for solutions outside the company. Great question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Balboni, can we go back a little bit to your university life? And so I do have some questions on that. So while you studied in the university, did you feel antisocial while studying or taking the lecture?
Did I feel so my personality, so when I was in university, how am I going to answer that question? By the time that I got to university, I realized that I became very focused fairly quickly. And so what I realized before I got to university is that this is really, I could be both smart and organized. I learned how to do that. And so by the time I got to university and started taking classes, I have to say I was pretty focused on doing well in those classes. So I was not the most social person at that point in terms of I wasn't there. I knew why I was there. I was there to kind of get done with university because I had a scholarship that lasted only for 4 years. And I knew I didn't have the money to spend more time than that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do well. And so I think that's the best answer I can come up with. I was focused at that point because I had to be. I didn't really have the opportunity, the time, or the money to be less focused.
Thank you.
Okay, somebody's got a question there. I've got a question. I know some people are going to groan on this, but Mr. Balboni happens to be a specialist also in infectious diseases and been speaking quite a bit recently on a topic that is affecting all of us in the COVID-19. And obviously there'll be some more questions, but and then we'll end running out of time here. But one of the questions I want to have, because I've done a lot of due diligence trying to figure out what is going on out there, and of course, my biggest concern as a capital person, and we state this to everybody in our classrooms as well, is that there are so many unknowns right now that it makes it difficult. And the markets have been going up because everybody thinks we're going to have a V-shaped recovery. And I'm not asking for the market side, but there is so many unknowns with this virus right now. Is one of the concerns out there, I know that we've heard it wasn't airborne and then it becomes airborne. It's in animals and cats, but it can't be delivered to humans, but now they're thinking especially. So we hear a lot of this stuff out there. Is there any possibility that viruses can live in the water environment? Because obviously there's been other viruses or other contagions that have occurred back in England where all the modeling started to find out how contagions were spreading. Is there any of that chance that it could be in the water?
So I think,
live?
yeah, so it's a great question, and I'll give you I will try to do my best to not give you a black and white answer because I don't think we know, and then that's one of the issues. I don't think we know enough about this virus yet. It's still so early on, relatively early on, that there's much that we don't know, and there's a lot of noise. I think, however, the data suggests, at least the lab data suggests, that it's not waterborne. It's also not foodborne. And to a large extent, it may have come from an animal vector or an animal source because it's cross-species, most certainly. But it does not seem that even the cats and dogs that have been shown to be positive can transmit it. That's the best answer we have now. Now, I'm going to hedge because we don't really know and we haven't done that work. There was a story that just came out recently that I was reading. Public health professional that I respect a lot was saying well, let me ask you a question, James. Where do you think the most likely place is that you're going to get the virus?
Right now, my biggest concern is that we're in a condominium and we have a lot of push air in this unit. So the elevators and the garbage chutes and things like that. So this will sound insane, but I lay it all out so the class always knows where we're. We actually use silver tape on our door. And I know we get a lot of air pushed through our door that comes up from the elevator shaft. So my biggest concern for me is actually getting in an elevator and having had somebody sneezed in that elevator 10 minutes or 20 minutes earlier and getting it blowing around the elevator for 2 or 3 hours and in our hair and on our hands and on our face. So that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And so an analogous story is that somebody laid out, do you think you're going to get it, at the grocery store or when you're outside or in an elevator, something like that? And you're right. It's probably that intimate contact for more than 5 minutes. And what they went on to say is they did a study looking at viral shedding in fecal matter, so public restrooms. And when you flush that toilet, there's no lid on the toilet and it aerosolizes all of that viral RNA. They don't know if it's infectious yet, but they've been able to pick up viral RNA for up to 30 minutes after somebody flushes a public toilet. And so, we're learning new things, not to make everybody paranoid, but a little paranoia is probably not a bad thing.
They're good with it in this class. They're tough.
And so I think it's probably smart to be wary of all of those things. And we're early enough in the viral outbreak that we should be questioning certainly the data that we're seeing. We don't have enough information. So could it be waterborne? Certainly. Nothing has pointed to it so far, though.
Does UV light, if people are running UV light systems in their house, are that effective against a virus like this?
It certainly seems to degrade the virus. And so they use UV light, as you probably know, to disinfect some of the PPE, the personal protective equipment. It's one of the methods that they use to inactivate the virus. And so it seems to work on many surfaces. It's not a perfect science. It's also, just so people know, UV light is damaging to tissue. And so you need to be careful if you use it that you have appropriate eye protection and skin protection as well.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I still have questions back to the West Point.
We're close, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you, okay, which question first? Do you have to be very well educated in a specific subject to start a company?
Let me think about that. It certainly helped me to be the subject matter expert on things science and regulatory so that I can kind of fill that void. What I'm not very well educated on, and I learn every single day from smart people, is I'm learning every day about the business side of things. And so there are people who are not scientists who are great business people. My CFO is one of them, and I learn things from her every day. She was at PricewaterhouseCoopers. She was in a public company previously called IMV, which you may have heard of. And they're in the news lately as well. They just finished a raise actually this past week. And so they have that's immunovaccine. So she has a lot of experience. And I think I learn from those folks all the time. So you certainly won't know everything, but it does help if you bring a certain specialization to the company that you're hoping to start.
Yeah, thank you. And then the next question is, I think you talked about this before, but how did military school help you?
I think they're looking at the physical attributes of getting in, right? You have to do 2 minutes of push-ups.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
300-meter rush.
Yeah, so
how was the performance in that?
So I'm actually I always score at or near the top of what you can get, and so it's an important point. Just so people know, I just did a 5K recently, and I did it in just under 20 minutes, and so not bad for an old guy. Some of you, I mean, all of you younger than me could do better than that, but it's okay. I'll take what I can get. That being said, you have to, in the military, you need to pass height and weight tests and physical fitness tests all the time. And now it's a little different. I'm a physician, and so I could score lower, but I'm as you might guess, I'm a little bit competitive, and so I always try and do my best. But you definitely need to think about that. But it's kept me certainly kept me in shape since I've been doing it for so long.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Somebody had a question. What?
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Beverly.
Hi, if you have to hire somebody to work for you, would you hire a university graduate or a high school student with experience?
So I think it depends on the job. I think that a great use of high school students and even college students is, again, something I talked about just briefly before, and that's internships. And so I think those are great ways to get involved in companies and learn new things. Now, I have to say, we have hired especially IT people who bring solutions, and some of them I think he was probably 18 years old or 17 years old. Like, he brought a very unique skill set with IT that I don't think you need to necessarily have been to university to get. And so I think, you know, there are technical schools and things that he did. He was very, 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 very good at what he did. Now, would I bring in a high school student for my chief medical officer? I don't think that would work, right? I think that's a level of experience that's probably beyond what you can do at that point. But I think I have no prejudice about who I bring in. It's about bringing in the right person for the team with the right skill set. So,
I know that we don't have a lot of time left. We got a couple, and I don't want to. You don't have to make these long-winded answers, but I think a lot of Shelley's got one question, and then
we actually have a lot more questions. This question from Alan, and he has been waiting from the very beginning. What's the worst part in running a company?
The worst part. I never stop thinking about it, ever. I wake up in the middle of the night. I keep a notebook. It's right here, actually. I keep a notebook and I make notes. And I was making notes of some of your questions as we were talking because they're triggering for something else. And so I wake up in the middle of the night and there you go. You know, like, you have ideas, thoughts about things, how things could run better. I think my wife and daughter would say that they've never taken a vacation with me where I'm not on my phone. I'm on my phone all the time. It's right here. And so, and I'm getting emails as we sit on the phone. I have a board call later today. And so I think it's, it never stops. And so thankfully I love what I'm doing. And so it doesn't feel like the worst part of it, but it definitely leaves very little room for downtime. And I think that's one of the drawbacks of a job like this.
Thank you. Then comparing, yeah, and then comparing to another one, how is it like to fire someone?
It's really, really hard because sometimes it's not usually because of some single performance issue where somebody is just a jerk who you need to get rid of. Oftentimes this is somebody you have a relationship with and you've built a relationship with them over time, and they're just not right for the team, or the company has grown in a way that does not allow, you know, that it's just not the right person for the job anymore. And so I think that's what makes it so difficult, because it is a very personal thing. And there's no way to take it but personally, I think, for some people. And so it's a very difficult thing to do. And it takes a lot of practice to do it well. And the lawyers that we have would argue that it's also a very specific way you need to do it. And so it's both emotional and also technical. You need to get it right, and for a whole bunch of reasons. But yeah, very hard to do.
That's actually one of our 5 things, liabilities and legals, that are in there. So, which the class has covered about firing or hiring people. Quick question. I know we've only got 7 minutes left. Shelley, you got one more question, and I want to ask something on the COVID therapies and vaccinations out there. And you can expand on that for 15 hours, but maybe just give us a quick update, because it's taking, it's really in the minds of a lot of people that are on here and affecting them greatly. But Shelley, one more question.
Yeah, I'm saving it to the last. Is if you had to choose one key characteristic that made one a great CEO, and only one characteristic, what would it be?
Perseverance.
Never give up. Yeah.
Yep. Run to your tackle, I like to say. It's, I never
Does West
stop.
Point have a football team?
They do. Yep, they do. Yep.
Yeah, just before Mr. Balboni leaves, can you give some advice to our students? Most of the students in this class are from grade 6, that's 12 to 16 years old. What would your advice be for this group of students?
Always do the absolute best that you can, and do what you do with excellence every time. I believe that nobody can ever fault you for trying your best. The worst thing that can happen is that you regret not having put in the time or the energy for something. And I would say that there are many times that I've failed, but I've never failed to try my best. And so if I fail, it's for the right reasons, not because I didn't try hard enough.
So I guess, because I don't want to run out of time here, I got to say thank you so much for taking your time. I mean, as I was explaining to the students and not so much the parents, because I don't speak to them directly all the time, but that you've got a lot of things going on right now. It's not like Saturday is the day where you can rest. You've got board meetings, you've got overseas commitments, or phone calls to make. Go ahead, Shelley.
Yeah.
So I guess we can end with a quick, because it's a big concern. Are there any therapies out there, or obviously vaccinations we hear of every day? One's going to be done tomorrow. Oxford's got one. And we know that most of the class realizes that that's not completely the way things work. But is there any therapies out there and vaccinations on the horizon? And we've got about 2 minutes. Not to put you on the spot.
So the short answer is yes. I'm going to stop right there with a yes answer, and I think it will. Yes, I think that's where I'm going to stop. It
Great.
will become apparent why I did that at some point.
Okay, great, guys. Any other? I think we're good. I mean, I want to just say thank you for taking this time. The students will take away. I take away from the whole thing perseverance. I know that there's always stresses out there. There's stresses right now on us, especially your parents out there for work and things like that. And we get through these things and we move forward, and we stay positive all the time. So I don't know. I'll let you finish, Mr. Balboni, with maybe a 1 minute way to end. But we're just so thankful. And I didn't script this, so I don't know what else to say, but thank you so much for taking your time to give us these kinds of opinions.
No, I'm happy to do it. And James, thank you, and to everybody else who's a supporter of Appili and the company. I think, I think that it can never be, it can't be stated enough that in fact we work for you, the shareholders. I mean, this is what we do, and so happy to do it. Also happy to let folks know that you don't have to have all the answers right now, especially at the age you are. So good luck, do your best, and I guess run till you're tackled as well. And I think that's always a great way to end things.
I'll teach a lesson on running through tackles for the next classes. Thank you so much, Mr. Balboni. It's been a pleasure, and we will talk again. Okay, Shelley?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Balboni. Great life lessons, and I believe a lot of parents who are shareholders of companies, they are happy to be here too. And I wish you all the best. I wish your company all the best.
Thanks, Shelley, and thanks everybody. I'm gonna drop off now and go do other stuff. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on here. I hope that helped. And next class we'll have a big class to go over everything we talked about today. Okay.
Shake hands. Shake hands.